So in and of itself, hypnotherapy is not fixing you. You fix yourself. Just like a hammer and a screwdriver and a drill don't make a deck outside your patio, you're going to build the deck. Therapeutic hypnosis is just quieting down that conscious level of mind so you can access the healing power of your subconscious, that unconscious part of mind. This isn't mind control. It's not brainwashing. That's not a thing. That's why smoking cessation, one of the things hypnotherapy is most famous for, helping people quit smoking. It's not a 100% guarantee. If they don't want to quit smoking, they're not going to quit smoking.
Welcome to the Hope Natural Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Ellis, your host. On this show, we discuss all things health, hormones, and happiness with a little side of this thing called life. Today, I'm joined by Craig Meriwether, a certified clinical hypnotherapist, medical hypnosis specialist, and mindset coach. Craig is the founder of Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy and has spent more than a decade helping people work with the subconscious mind to shift patterns around stress, anxiety, trauma, and confidence. Through clinical hypnotherapy and neuroscience-based techniques, he helps people identify the deeper patterns driving their emotions and behaviors so they can create meaningful and lasting change. Craig works with individuals around the world, helping them reduce anxiety, overcome fear, and reconnect with a greater sense of clarity and confidence. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Dr. Aaron, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I know this is an unusual topic, so I'm ready to dive in and have a conversation.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything unusual about it. I love the subconscious mind. I talk to patients about it all the time. Anxiety, breath work, all of that stuff. So excited to
Yeah.
dive in, but before we talk more about your specialty, give us a bit about your background and how you got into doing this.
Well, the background starts with my own personal healing. I struggled a lot with depression and anxiety as a kid, especially the teenage years. And this is the 1980s we're talking about. Graduated high school in 1985, and so there's no internet. And even those SSRI drugs, the antidepressants like Prozac, that didn't really come out till the 1990s. And so really it's whatever book you could find at the library, whatever book you could find at the bookstore, let your fingers do the walking and go through the yellow pages, the phone book to try to find a talk therapist. Certainly a 14-year-old is not going to ask his friends around lunch what talk therapist they're going to, if anybody has any recommendations. So it's more of just struggling through it. There wasn't much help out there because nobody really talked about it.
Hmm.
There was kind of the hidden issues of life that just weren't put out there, and so it was really the kind of resurgence of the personal development self-help movement in the 90s. Tony Robbins was becoming super popular. This book, Awaken the Giant Within, Oprah's daytime show is becoming super popular, and she was doing a lot of personal growth, self-help kind of shows on. And then as the internet starts coming out in 96, 97, these antidepressants started arriving. And like them, don't like them. At the very least, they opened up a conversation about depression and what it was about. So Oprah was having shows about talking about depression. There's, you're on the internet. There's, uh, forums and groups you could join to talk about the issues of depression and anxiety, other issues of life. You could start doing some research about it. And so this whole conversation, though, because you could be at a party, hanging out at a barbecue and talk about depression, talk about, yeah, I just went to my doctor and I got this medication. And the conversation, by opening up and kind of widening that ability to discuss and access information, I just started doing even more work about it. I was using, well, I had gone to talk therapy, and it's very helpful, very useful, very healing. One of the aspects of this work is, well, if you don't kind of know the core issue, then you're just kind of healing and resolving surface level issues, which again can be very helpful. But in terms of those core issues that may be, behind the veil of that unconscious part of mind, what people were talking about in terms of, like articles in magazines and blog posts and interviews on TV shows, like, well, here's some things you can do to change your life. and there'd be like bullet points, 5 bullet points of here's the things you can do to change your life. One of them was always hypnotherapy.
Hmm.
And all these people I was following, people in chat groups and things like this, talking about hypnotherapy. And so I finally, thought maybe since all these people that I follow, that I read, that I trust, were talking about it, maybe there's something I could do. And now, I'm in my 20s and getting into my 30s, and I'm still struggling with this stuff. I'm working on it, but it's still not resolving in a way that was, you know, kind of helpful to me. And started using hypnotherapy, and I did some deep, deep healing work and resolved a lot of issues by tapping into the power of my own subconscious mind. And again, in and of itself, as a hypnotherapist, I don't fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. Hypnotherapy is an umbrella uh, for all sorts of different techniques and tools. So under this umbrella term hypnotherapy, you can have all sorts of different techniques you can use. So in and of itself, hypnotherapy is not fixing you, you fix yourself. Just like a hammer and a screwdriver and a drill don't make a deck outside your patio, you're going to build the deck. So too, in this way, and using these techniques, you are going to do the healing. And that's the extraordinariness of it, is tapping the power of your own healing work. And so I actually, because I had all these tools and techniques around depression and all my research for my own self uh, about depression, I wrote a book. And I thought, well, maybe I could start getting into the personal development stuff because now podcasts are getting out there back in 2010, 2011. And I joined a writing contest. And so it just kind of started, getting wider and wider. And finally it kind of pivoted a little bit later in life, and I got the opportunity to train, do some great training at the Hypnotherapy Academy of America. Uh, so, 2.5 months, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday for 2.5 months, 500 hours of this great training of clinical hypnotherapy, helping people release and resolve and heal the aspects around trauma, whether it happened a month ago or maybe 50 years ago. Uh, hurt, pain, anger they may be dealing with, building confidence in various areas of life, as well as the more medicinal side of it, of medical hypnosis, like pain management and healing acceleration, things like that. So it was this kind of slow drip. I'll be hitting 59 years old here in a few months, and so it's been this slow drip over the last, well, I don't know, 40 years or so, of trying to find ways of healing my own hurt and pain to now, helping people do it for themselves as well.
Love that. Great
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
awesome. Yeah, so let's chat about hypnosis. So when people hear that word, they might after picture the stage hypnosis
Yeah.
or, losing control and you're like lifted, up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so can you walk us through like what actually hypnotherapy is and what someone really experiences during a session?
Sure. Yeah, and it's really unfortunate because as amusing as the movies and TV shows are, and I get it, to move a plot point forward, how are you going to get Jason Bourne to assassinate the prime minister? Oh, we'll hypnotize him. I get it. And then, the whole trope, the cliche of swinging the pocket
Yeah.
watch and you're getting sleepy. And I'll even explain that in a second. But there's an awful lot of misconceptions and myths around it, which is unfortunate because I think it keeps a lot of people away from even investigating the potential this work has. And really, therapeutic hypnosis is just quieting down that conscious level of mind so you can access the healing power of your subconscious, that unconscious part of mind. This isn't mind control, it's not brainwashing. In fact, it's giving you back control. Really, if somebody's experiencing uh, chronic levels of anxiety or anger or overwhelm or worry, fear, frustration in life, maybe they get this feeling, say, that you can never do anything right. Maybe there's even, more medical issues like chronic physical pain. Well, seems pretty out of control. So what this actually does is give you back control, gives you back a way to move through life and the challenges of life in a more resilient and resourceful way, as well as tools and techniques to resolve and heal hurt and pain that maybe again has been uh, locked away in that filing cabinet of the subconscious mind for many decades. And so really it's about your attention and what you want to do. Now, in terms of those shows you see in Las Vegas or comedy clubs, YouTube videos, understand that every single person that gets up on that stage volunteered to be up there. They want to be up there. Why? I don't know. But in terms of wanting going up to that show, you can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. That's not a thing. That's why smoking cessation, one of the things hypnotherapy is most famous for, helping people quit smoking. It's not a 100% guarantee. If they don't want to quit smoking, they're not going to quit smoking.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's wife or husband makes the appointment because I'm tired of cigar smoke everywhere, cigarette smoke, and the health and implications and the cost and the smell, and you're stopping. I made an appointment for you Thursday, and you're going to quit smoking. Well, if they show up at the appointment, they're like, well, my wife, my husband made this appointment. I really enjoy a good cigar at the end of the day. I enjoy smoking a cigarette after a good meal. You know what? I'm just going to say this didn't work and negotiate smoking in the garage or outside by the gazebo or something. You know, they're not going to quit because they don't want to quit. Otherwise, I could go every Las Vegas bar and casino and just make people quit smoking. I'd be able to, waltz into the United Nations using my Jedi mind trick and hypnotize the United Nations to create world peace and end war. I'd be that guy. They would celebrate to me, make statues to me. My birthday would be an international holiday. I'd be the guy who ended war. They'd sing songs to me. But I can't do that. You can't make people do things they don't want to do. So in terms of those shows where they're up on stage and they're dancing like Michael Jackson and they're singing like Elvis Presley and they're quacking like ducks and barking like dogs, they volunteered to be up there. And who's that hypnotist going to pick? They're coming out, they're doing a big show, and those shows are expensive too. Are they picking the introvert in the back of the room, sitting in the shadows, sinking down in their chair, trying to hide? Or are they picking the extrovert who got there early to sit in the front row so they could, jump up and down, pick me, pick me, pick me? One of those two people is going to do a better show. And you also notice when they do those shows, they pick about 10, 12 people to get up there because a couple of them are going to be excused because they can't do it. They're too
Yeah.
nervous now. Even if they wanted to be up there, they get up there, it's like, there's all these people staring at me with their phones out and cameras and big lights. Or maybe they lost a bet. If you lose the bet, then you have to go up on stage. And then they get up there and they're like, they're going to be excused from the stage because they can't do it. You know, the hypnotist, they need to give a good show, and so they're going to
Mm-hmm.
bring up people who are going to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they all have a big smile on their face. And even those videos you may see, if you've ever seen those videos maybe on Instagram or something, and seem to be doing street hypnosis, and they just walk up to people and like sleep, and they kind of keel over like this. If you ever seen those, it's like that was rehearsed for about a week before. They're friends. They know each other. That's not a stranger. I don't dare anybody to do this because I know what the reaction is going to be. If you went up to somebody on the street, a total stranger, and did some sort of Jedi mind trick of sleep, they're going to punch you in the face and run away because they're frightened because this insane person is screaming at them to sleep.
Yeah.
Now the reason that's such a stereotype and such a cliche is that really what you're trying to do is kind of bore the person into getting down into the alpha brainwave state. Now, I'm not here to do a whole class on the brain. I mean, it takes something like 10 years to get a PhD in becoming a neuroscience scientist. But, those famous brainwave states we learned about back in school, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. It's really the basic premise of that all is just really how fast your brain is processing information and operating. And so, right now, me and Dr. Aaron, we're like having this conversation. We're in the present moment. We're focused on this discussion and this conversation we're having. We're probably maybe firing around 18, 20 cycles per second in the beta brainwave state. But let's say I'm back in high school math class. And I'm paying attention because it's going to be on the test, and I got to do well this time. And so I'm writing and trying to figure it out. But this is so boring to me, and the teacher's boring, and I just kind of start kind of staring out the window, and I'm watching the leaves blow in the wind. It's like, oh, this weekend me and my friends are gonna go do this, and boy, that reminds me of that trip we took last year. And I've just slowed down how my brain is processing information, and literally how fast the electrical storm of those neural pathways. You've seen the videos of the electrical storm in the brain when somebody's walking down the street or thinking a thought or playing the piano or something. How fast that electrical storm of all those neurons firing to each other happens determines what brainwave state you are. And if you slow that down to be in the more daydreamy state of alpha, well, now you're firing about 12 cycles per second. You've entered the hypnagogic trance state. Move down to the theta. You're not really asleep, not really awake, but you're kind of that hazy kind of altered state of consciousness of can't really tell where you are. At theta brainwave state, you're firing about 6 cycles per second, and delta is sleep, 1/2 cycle per second. Now, if I'm in high school math class and I'm bored, I'm just staring out the window, teacher's still talking, but I've moved myself out of the present moment and I've wandered off. My mind has wandered off to somewhere else. I've altered my state of consciousness. And then my eyes start to get heavy and I start to fall asleep in the math class. Well, now the teacher sees me and says, "Hey, Craig, why don't you come up here and do the problem on the board?" And I jolt awake and I look at the board and then I'm looking around, everybody's staring at me and laughing. And now I'm really stressed. I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to do the problem on the board. I don't know how to get out of this. Now I'm firing about 30 cycles per second. I'm in the stress response, the fight or flight response. And just in that matter of whatever, 10 minutes, I've altered my state of consciousness 3 or 4 times just by being bored in high school math class. And so that whole swinging of the pocket watch or whatever, the pin of just like, you're getting sleepy, it's really just trying to be a high school math teacher. Or you remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off, if anybody saw that movie. The teacher in that movie poured every one of those students with
Yeah.
them in hypnagogic trance state. So it also shows that we all can do this. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
something that only a certain select few can do. I know the academics like to tell, well, only 20% of the people can't do this or something like that. 20% of the people couldn't do it with you. I mean, this is the alpha brainwave state. We all go into alpha brainwave state multiple times a day. Watching TV puts you in the alpha
Mm-hmm.
brainwave state. Being bored at a meeting at work puts you in the alpha brainwave state. Being bored standing in the line at the grocery store puts you in the alpha brainwave state. Um, if you're driving home, if anybody's had this experience, you're driving home and you're about 6, 7 blocks away from your house or your apartment, and all of a sudden your mind, oh my God, I got people coming over this weekend. I need to get to the store. And I got that project due on Friday. And oh God, I hope the PowerPoint got done by Fred. I need to, and then all of a sudden you're in your driveway or in your garage, you're in your parking spot, and you don't remember the last 6 blocks. You just altered your state of consciousness. You just hypnotized yourself to drive home unconsciously because you know how to drive home. I mean, if you've lived there
Mm-hmm.
for several years, 365 days a year, you maybe driven home 1,000 times. You know how to drive home.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know how to tie
Yeah.
your shoes, you know how to ride a bicycle. You drove yourself home while your mind drifted away, floated away to think about something else. You put yourself in a hypnosis state. We all can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason somebody may say, well, I tried to do hypnosis and it didn't work, is like, well, then you didn't feel comfortable in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't feel
Okay.
safe. Maybe in with the person you're working with, you didn't get in a rapport with them. You didn't feel comfortable with them in their office over the Zoom call. You didn't feel comfortable doing it like that. Um, maybe in the research office of the university, you didn't feel comfortable. So it actually shows you the control you have. People just can't put you in the hypnosis trance state. You have to allow yourself, like, oh, this is boring. Maybe I'll just drift off and think of something more important, like the
Mm-hmm.
vacation I took last year, or the report at work that's due on Friday, or I got family coming over the weekend, or what. You think of something more important, so you alter your state of consciousness. You do that. Now
Yeah.
somebody else could do it because they're, you know, maybe doing a boring speech or teaching. I don't mean to pick on high school math teachers, um, but in terms of this, you can, if given permission, help somebody move into that state. And that's what hypnotherapists are trained to do, help move in that state. Now, whether you use a prop like a pocket watch or a pen or follow my finger or just stare at that spot on the wall, like a
Mm-hmm.
picture on the wall or a pattern in the drywall or the shadow or something, and then just close your eyes. You know, it's something we all do multiple
Yeah.
times a day, so we
Yeah,
take
for
advantage
sure.
of it. Yeah.
So I want to definitely touch on a couple things because This is very pertinent to the patients I see in office, my audience. So many women that I work with are dealing with chronic stress, burnout, anxiety. So, from a hypnotherapy perspective, what is actually happening in the subconscious mind when they feel stuck in that stress response?
Yeah. Yeah, the subconscious mind, extraordinary piece of you as a human being. Its main job is to keep you safe and protected for survival. Now, of course, it's running your digestive system, your immune system, beating your heart. If you get a cut on your finger, it knows there's a cut on your finger, sends all the emergency aid to the index finger of your left hand, not the pinky finger of your right hand. It knows what the problem is. If you ever had that experience of somebody, whoa, well, you got a scrape there on your arm. What happened to your arm? You're like, oh, I have no idea. Like the subconscious mind knew there was a problem, started the healing process before you were
Mm-hmm.
even consciously aware of it. A broken leg. Yeah, you're going to go to the doctor, you're going to get an x-ray, you're going to get a cast. But it's the subconscious mind that's sending the healing emergency aid to that bone to fuse a bone. And it knows which bone has the problem. So it's running all those systems, the immune system of, and and even noticing things of temperature. Oh, I'm too hot, I'm too cold. It's processing all this information. It's holding on to habits that we have, like tying our shoes and walking down the street, riding a bicycle, buttoning our shirt, those kind of things. But its main job is to keep you safe and protected. And one of the ways it does this is by holding on to old hurt and pain, whether that happened a month ago, last week, or 50 years ago. And sort of, again, it kind of has this filing cabinet. And in the filing cabinet are files of all the hurt and pain and anger and fear and embarrassment and humiliation and the all the instructions on how to keep yourself safe. Those instructions may have been installed there by a child that was very afraid, a child that lived in an unsafe environment unconsciously and through a traumatic experience, but the child was still uh, able to install certain instructions and computer code. And that computer code may have been something like keep yourself small, keep yourself hidden, keep your voice soft. And that may have been the best thing the child could have done to keep themselves safe in a very unsafe home growing up, or some other environment, maybe at school, getting bullied. Well, that may have kept themselves safe at 8, 9, 10 years old, maybe as a teenager, but that doesn't work in your 30s or your 40s or your 50s. And so there's this disconnect between the instructions on how to keep yourself safe and the issues in life today. And so your subconscious mind is just kind of using computer program. Your subconscious mind is not against you. It may seem like that at times, but your subconscious mind is not against you. It's trying to keep you safe and protected. One aspect of being human is the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And this is most noticeable when somebody's having a nightmare in the middle of the night. Doesn't matter how ridiculous or how realistic it may be. Maybe it's a veteran having a PTSD dream about being back in combat in front line, even though the war was, for them was 40 years ago. Or maybe something super ridiculous, like a cheeseburger's chasing down the street throwing coconuts at your head. It's dumb. It's never going to happen. But even that, in both instances, the person is both safe and sound and sleeping deeply in their comfortable bed. But the subconscious mind thinks they're under attack and will raise the alarms. It
Mm-hmm.
sort of has a shoot first, ask questions later safety protocol. Again, trying to keep you safe and protected, and it will turn on the stress response even in deep sleep. That's why your digestive system, the power starts turning down, the immune system starts turning down, all that energy, power, blood supply, oxygen moving to the big muscle of your arms to fight this cheeseburger, the big muscle of your legs to escape this cheeseburger that's attacking you on the street. Your heart starts racing to get all that cortisol and adrenaline your brain's creating into the big muscles all throughout your body, and it may even be so much cortisol in your system that you wake up, overrides the melatonin. So you wake up with a start, and then you're looking around, your eyes you're wide open because your conscious mind or your subconscious mind, I'm sorry, wants you consciously awake to look for the danger. You're sweating, trying to cool down your body. Had this physical change because the subconscious mind thought you were being attacked by a cheeseburger. So you can imagine what's happening in your waking world. The mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And so it'll turn on the warning system of this feeling state of anxiety or fear. Those are warning states. Like somebody pulling the fire alarm in a building. You get the sirens and the strobe lights. Well, we also have a warning system, but it's the feeling state within the body, trying to get your attention that there's danger here. Don't walk down that dark alley at midnight, even though it's a shortcut home. Don't peer too far over the edge of the Grand Canyon. Don't pet that rattlesnake. That's not your friend. Don't pet the lovely grizzly bear. It's not your friend. So we have this system, which is very important. We don't want to walk down that dark alley. We don't want to pet the grizzly bear. But there's also the aspect that my mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined with these safety instructions, possibly set up by a frightened child, a hurt child. You can start seeing how maybe some of these things start to be malleable and the gears start to get cranking up because it's not operating well anymore. Trying to run safety programs set up by a frightened 8-year-old as a 38-year-old. And so that's the subconscious mind. It's this part of mind that, yeah, it's running our immune system, our digestive system, healing cuts and wounds and
Mm-hmm.
holding on to habits. But its main job is to keep us safe and protected and emotionalizes those to get our attention. The conscious mind, that's the logical mind, the analytical mind, the mind that sets up your goals and the plans to achieve those goals. But what neuroscience says, has been telling us, is that conscious mind, the conscious mind only makes up 5% of mind. Subconscious mind, that unconscious part of mind, is making up 95% of mind. So when there's conflict between the logical mind and the emotional mind wins every time. That's why it can be very frustrating when this doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I'm angry all the time. I don't know what I'm afraid of. It's just there. It doesn't. I'm anxious all the time, and I don't know why. Life is great. My family is great. Work is doing well. I'm just angry all the time. I'm anxious all the time. Well, you do know. It's just patterns within the subconscious mind that may be getting out of hand, and there may not be a logical reasoning behind it because the logical mind is not in charge. The emotional mind is in charge. Another aspect of being human that kind of frustrates the situation is what you practice, you get better at. If you're feeling stuck, you're feeling blocked, you're feeling anxious, like chronically anxious, chronically stressed, chronically overwhelmed, and frustrated and disappointed and angry, what you practice, you get better at, which is great if you're practicing the piano or the guitar, or you're learning dance, or you're learning martial arts, you're learning to walk as a child. But it's not great if you're practicing fear, if you're not practicing anxiety. You're literally wiring that into your brain. But this doesn't mean it's going to take decades and decades to fix. There's some great research that shows you can start rewiring your brain in just about a week. And University College of London says it takes about 66 days to create that habit.
Hmm.
So that's like 2 months. Taking
Yeah, it's
about
not
five,
long.
6 days to notice that your brain is literally changing and creating new wiring. So the healing work doesn't have to take a long time. But in terms of sometimes getting frustrated by maybe the healing work not being as effective as you'd like it to be, maybe because there's something within the subconscious mind that's not getting resolved and
Mm-hmm.
not getting healed. And what's empowering about all this um, is that even if that stuff was put in there by a frightened child, a hurt child in pain, and it was done unconsciously through a traumatic event, well, you're the one who put it in there, and that's not to say it was your fault. Certainly not. It's not. It wasn't fair, and it shouldn't have happened. And it's not to blame the victim, but it becomes actually very empowering because if you're the one who put it in there, into that filing cabinet, you're the one who can take it out. And that's what this work is all about, to kind of bring it back full circle. Um, I know we're getting kind of towards the end here, but the full circle is like you're in charge, you're in control. It may seem like you're
Mm-hmm.
out of control at the moment, but with the warning system going off, it's sort of like, the smoke alarm going off every time you make toast. It's like there's something not, working well
Mm-hmm.
within that system. And so it needs to get resolved. And so that's what's great about hypnotherapy. And in and of itself, like I started off with a beginning, I'm not here to fix anybody. And hypnotherapy in and of itself doesn't fix anybody. You fix yourself. Because who better to know what the problem is than you? And
Yeah,
who better to know what to do about it than you? And that's the power of these techniques.
for sure.
Yeah.
So, speaking of techniques, for those that need to relax, slow down, but like their mind keeps going and racing. Are there any simple techniques that someone could use to
Sure.
calm their nervous system when they feel overwhelmed?
Yeah, let me give you a real quick one. Really simple, really easy. Do not let the simplicity and ease of this fool you. This is very powerful. But you can teach your kids how to do this afternoon. You can teach your friends how to do it this afternoon. That's how simple this stuff is. But it resets your nervous system and literally hacks your brain so you start creating the chemistry of oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. Very simply, it's called 3-2-1 reset. And if you're, you know, sitting somewhere comfortably, maybe you're just listening to this while you're doing chores of the house or something, maybe you can follow along, participate. Of course, if you're driving your car, you're supervising the kids around the swimming pool or cooking with fire or something, don't, clock where we are in the interview and you can come back to it. But if you have the ability to do this with us, go ahead and join along if it's safe for you to do so. The three stands for three slow, gentle breaths. Now you can do 4, 5, 10 if you'd like, but the deep breath, especially when you're anxious, will signal from the body up to the brain that you're safe. I know that's the most obnoxious thing to tell a person who's panicked, who's afraid, who's anxious to take a deep breath. But it's usually one of the best things you can do. One of the reasons why, well, one is we're starving ourselves of oxygen because oftentimes when we're in that stress response, we're shallow breathing. If you're out in Alaska and you out in the back country there, out in the woods, and you turn the corner, there's a grizzly bear there. You're not going to take a deep breath in and close your eyes. Ah, no, you're going to like, and you're going to either hold your breath or start breathing shallowly to get that oxygen to the legs to get out of there, or to your arms to potentially have to defend yourself. You're not going to close your eyes. You're going to tunnel vision right on that bear, then tunnel vision onto the, where you're going to run to and or the tree you're going to climb. So the opposite of that, the deep, slow, gentle breath, closing of the eyes if it's safe for you to do so, is actually signaling your brain that you're safe. Now it's doing this through the vagus nerve. Now that nerves are that's the thing when you touch a hot pot on a stove, the signal goes through your hand, up your arm, into your brain, says you're touching a hot pot, let it go, goes back down your arm, into your hand, and you let go of that hot pot, all within a millionth of a second. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. People have heard of this, the vagus nerve. Stimulate the vagus nerve, you create vagal stimulation to relax the body. Well, that's because the vagus nerve is a big part of the parasympathetic nervous system, the relaxation response. You got the sympathetic nervous system, the stress response, fight or flight response, parasympathetic relaxation response. The vagus nerve is a big part of that. Vagus is Latin for wanderer because it attaches to the eyes and to the ears and the muscles of your jaw, where a lot of us keep a lot of our stress and tension. Goes past your vocal cords, attaches to your heart, to your lungs, and to your gut. By breathing slowly, gently, easily, and smoothly, you can stimulate the vagus nerve, therefore activate the parasympathetic. How simple is this? You can start stacking things like, if it's safe for you to do so, closing your eyes while you're taking a deeper breath in. If, again, it's appropriate, you can exhale with a sigh out of your mouth, like, ah. The vagus nerve goes past the vocal cords. You vibrate the vocal cords, you sympathetically vibrate the vagus nerve. Stimulate the vagus nerve, you activate the parasympathetic. So you can start stacking these things one on top of the other. Again, a lot of us keep our stress and tension in our jaw. We clench our jaw, we grind our teeth. So jaw yoga, it looks silly. Don't do it at the dinner table. Don't do it in the middle of the meeting at work. But you can stretch your jaw out, move it around, loosen up those muscles. Roll your shoulders. A lot of us keep it in our shoulders too. So, you draw that deep breath in. Ah. And again, I know this is silly. You're not going to do it in the middle of a meeting at work. But if you can find a private place, loosen up, put yourself in a state of a calm, peaceful nervous system. And so that's three slow, gentle breaths. Maybe add on some of those extras to it if it's appropriate for you. Start stacking those things. But and of course, we're breathing in deeply into the abdomen. And these lungs of ours are huge. The reasoning behind is this brain of ours is like 2% of our body mass, something like 3 pounds of our overall body weight, takes 20% of the energy, 20% of the oxygen we breathe in. We need that much oxygen. If you're not breathing well, if somebody's afraid and even holding their breath, giving the brain the nutrients it needs for operating. And so by breathing in, you can fuel, nurture your brain with the oxygen it needs for calm, rational thinking. So slow, gentle breath. The two is we're going to create bilateral stimulation. When the brain is feeling that panic or that overwhelm, that anxiety, it's lighting up a part of the right side of the brain. So by kind of moving your body left and right, here's my little squeezy ball, maybe a racquetball, a tennis ball, a pen, a water bottle, moving it back and forth like that, or drumming on your knees. We want to move both sides of the body because then we operate in both hemispheres of the brain. This skull of ours, this head of ours can only hold so much blood supply and oxygen, nutrients and fuel. So when a big alarm system goes off like anxiety and fear, it's going to absorb a lot of that. So by moving your body, even just very simply like sitting in your chair, moving your hands back and forth, passing a ball back and forth, um, you can operate in different hemispheres of the brain. It pulls it away. So we're going to create biostimulation by grabbing our shoulders. Yeah, walking is a biostimulation. Riding a bike is biostimulation. But we're going to grab our shoulders and creating this biostimulation. You also notice that this is a hug, of course. They say the human being needs something like 5 or 6 hugs a day. Well, you can give it to yourself if you're not getting that many. And while you give this is like a somatic exercise of using the body, as you hug yourself, you're actually sending signals from these nerves in your hands and your arms that this is loving, nurturing, healing touch. If someone is feeling anxious, they'd start creating the hormone GABA, which would dissipate and evaporate all that adrenaline and cortisol. So the brain now creates oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, the happiness chemistry. You're literally hacking your brain, resetting your nervous system, hacking your brain, and then we're going to think of somebody we want to give a hug to. The mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And even though you're hugging yourself and using this foundation of this actual hug, you're going to think of somebody or your dog or your cat, or maybe you had a bunny rabbit or a guinea pig as a kid. You're going to think of somebody you want to give a hug to. Even though they're not right there with you, you could pretend, whether it's a family member, a good friend, maybe it's somebody who's no longer with us, your grandmother, your grandfather, somebody you admire, an author, singer, actor, something, a teacher, maybe somebody from history, Mother Teresa or Mahatma Gandhi or somebody. Grabbing your shoulders, closing your eyes if it's safe for you to do so, and pretending you're hugging somebody will literally reset your nervous system, hack your brain, flooding it with the joyful happiness chemistry of oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine, all within about 5 minutes. Now, I know I took a bit of time to explain a little bit of the biology of what's going on, the physiology of it, but you can teach a kid how to do that. Really simply. You can do it around the dinner table before you start dinner. Let's all just take a moment to reset ourselves, reboot.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that before a test at school. You can do it sitting in your car before you walk into work. You
Mm-hmm.
can sit in your car before you walk back into your house after a really long, bad day at school or work or wherever. And just like, I need to center myself, ground myself, reboot. And that's a great exercise to do it. Super simple, super easy, 5, 6 minutes. Do it for 15 minutes. Do it for half an hour
Yeah.
if you want. But you just do it for 5, 6 minutes. And guess what? What you practice, you get better at.
Yep.
You just literally start rewiring yourself for that feel good state.
Love that. And it's
Yeah.
free.
And it's free. It's absolutely free. There's no copyright to
Nope.
that. There's no trademark to it. There's no patent to it.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, we should have gotten this manual. Like you get a manual when you get your car
Yeah.
to tell you how to operate your car and fix your car and all that stuff. We should have gotten one of those, but we didn't. But
Nope.
there's all these wonderful exercises to help you restore and reset, and that's a great one, easy one to do.
Love that. Well,
Yeah.
we could probably talk for
Yeah.
a lot longer, but we'll wrap it up with one guest that I asked all my podcasts. One question I asked all my podcast guests: what is your best or favorite health tip that you could share with the audience?
Well, probably favorite. Well, best tip is get a good night's sleep. And if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you really need to see somebody like Dr. Aaron, go to a sleep clinic. You need to get good sleep. But in terms of kind of more focusing on the work I do, it's really that the mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. And what you practice, you get better at. Meaning, if you don't feel confident, if you don't feel like you're worthy, you could pretend. and it'll literally reset your
Hmm.
entire system. If you practice that, pretending that you are worthy, pretending that you are
Hmm.
lovable, pretending that you are the most awesome person in the world, even if you're maybe you never felt peaceful or calm
Hmm.
in your life. Maybe you grow up in a really intense situation. What if you pretended? What would
Yeah.
it be like to spend a month at a Buddhist monastery in the Himalayas? What would it be like to spend rent out the uh, island of Kauai, and it's just you on the island of Kauai, and you had it to yourself? What would that be like? What if you had an all-inclusive resort that was just for you on the moon? I know there's no all-inclusive resort on the moon. I know that's not possible. But what if you pretended there was? Just as a cheeseburger chasing down the street throwing coconuts at your head can change your physiology,
Hmm.
wouldn't an all-inclusive resort on the moon run by minions serving you wonderful drinks also change your physiology to create peace and calm, maybe
Yeah.
even a bit of joy in your life because there are minions running around or something? So you can fake it till you make it. That's a real thing, and really reset your nervous system, literally start changing the way your brain is wired for this stuff.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of
Oh,
that.
you're
I know you
welcome.
said in the beginning it's a different topic, but I think
Yeah.
it relates to my audience and what I
Yeah.
do as well. And I'm always fascinated by subconscious and brain work and all of that stuff. So thank you so much for sharing all of your
Oh, you're welcome,
wisdom.
Dr. Aaron. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we have all of Craig's information here in the show notes, his social media, website, all of those things. So if you're interested in doing some hypnotherapy, reach out to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of my work over Zoom. I'm up in
Good.
Flagstaff, Arizona, just down up the road from
Yeah.
Dr. Aaron, but I do most of my work over Zoom. Works really well, just like this,
Yeah.
because people feel calm and comfortable and relaxed in their homes. So I've been working with people around the country and around the world, and works really well.
Great. Well, thank you again for being on the show.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
we'll see everyone again next week. Take care.